You guys ready to talk about tax?
Probably not.
Yeah. We promise it's not as hard as you are probably making it up in your head. And you got two experts who've been doing it for a very long time. Hi guys, it's Vanessa. Welcome back to my channel. If you are here, it's probably because you want to find out what your tax responsibilities are as a US American studying abroad. Whether that's a bachelor's, master's, PhD, anything in between, we're going to dive in right now. So if you have any other questions about personal finance as a US American abroad, check out my playlist, Personal Finance for US Expats. And let me introduce today's guest, Natalie.
Hi.
Who are you and why are you here?
Well, first off, I'm Vanessa's bestie.
Obviously.
No, so I'm Natalie Goldstein. I am CEO of MyExpatTaxes. We're the leading tax software for US, citizens, green card holders, basically Americans living abroad that have to file their taxes back to the US. And we created MyExpatTaxes out of the pure necessity because there's 9 million of us living abroad and we all got to file our taxes. And the question is, do we really have to file our taxes? How much do we have to pay? How do we file our taxes? And I'm here to help guide you through that as an IRS enrolled agent.
So today we're specifically focusing on US Americans moving abroad anywhere in the world as students. So there could be some income that you make part-time, maybe your parents are helping you out, maybe you're using your education retirement plan, your 529s, right? To fund your life abroad. Let's get into it. So first question, as a student, do you really need to file and pay taxes back to the United States when you're studying and living abroad?
So it all depends on, do you have enough worldwide income to trigger a tax filing responsibility? Obviously, there are a couple exceptions outside of it, but let's just focus on the main one is, do you make enough money, worldwide income, so from all sources, from the US, from abroad, to trigger a tax filing requirement? So for single filers, that requirement is about $13,000 US dollars. It changes every year, it gets a little bit higher. You can just look at the standard deduction. I'm not gonna name off the numbers right now because you might be watching 5 years from now. But generally, that's the question. Now, if you're married to a non-US citizen, so maybe you found love and then now you moved abroad and now you're studying abroad with your new non-US citizen spouse and they're like, no, I don't want to be involved in your US tax return because why would they want to be? You have to file if you make over $5. And that has been in place since 2018. So even if you watch this 5 years from now, it may still be in place that if you are married, filing separately, which is a very common filing status for those that are married to non-US citizens, you will have to file a US tax return if your interest income totals over $5.
Like my bank interest,
your US bank interest,
1% I get,
your German bank interest, anything. So I just want to make clear, it really depends on that. And then if you are a student and you have a hustle on the side, you're self-employed, maybe you don't even think you're self-employed, but you are getting some type of freelancing income. If you make over $400 in net self-employment profit, you do have to still file a US tax return, even if you would not otherwise meet the standard deduction filing threshold, so to say, for your filing status. So again, basically, if you earn money, you probably have to file a US tax return. Now, will you owe taxes? Probably not, honestly. And we'll get into that, but I just want to, answer the questions. Do you have to file? And it depends on your worldwide income. And remember, grants, scholarships, all those stipends you get, it also counts. So really, the scholarship and the grants, there's a couple rules to consider. But it's, basically, if you're getting a scholarship or grant not from a US institution, and it's an international institution, some of them are kind of eligible, but most of them are not. Basically, that's all counted as taxable.
So what you're saying is we're in hell.
No, I'm not saying that, but I am saying it's if you have income, you probably have to file a US tax return.
Let's talk about what income is. So rapid fire, yes, we have to consider it in our reporting. No, you do not.
Yeah.
Money from mom and dad.
No.
Money from grandparents.
No, it's inheritance gifts, no.
Inherited 529.
So it really depends. Okay, I know you said rapid fire, but basically, if you have a penalty on it, if you're not using it for qualified educational expenses, there might be a penalty, so yes, you do have to report.
Part-time job at the library.
Of course, it's income. But of course, if it's salaried income, if it's not self-employment, you can see if you meet the filing threshold, which is about $13,000 for a standard filer at the time of making this video.
This applied to me when I was a student in the UK. Volunteer for an NGO, but they give you a living stipend for food.
Just counts as compensation. salary.
Yeah. This seems particularly unfair because you're a broke student just trying to hustle your way into the next.
You're just
stage of
trying to
life.
get something on your CV.
I know that too. So the TLDR, if you have income, you probably have to file. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to pay taxes back to the United States because you might not owe taxes to the United States. You brought up a really interesting point. Scholarships, grants, maybe a Fulbright stipend of some sort. Why is that considered income?
So again, scholarship is considered income. The question about scholarship is it taxable or is it not taxable? So if you're getting a scholarship, fund from a qualified, eligible institution, and the IRS has a list of these, again, they're mainly institutions that accept US financial aid. So that means they're usually US institutions. There's a couple international ones on there. So like the big international schools are on that list, so make sure you check. But essentially, one, it has to be from an eligible educational institution, and then it has to be used on qualified educational expenses. So books, supplies, tuition. But if you're getting a scholarship or grants or stipends to travel, to do research, for your housing, for food, that's not a qualified educational expense. That's considered compensation, right? Scholarship and compensation is essentially taxed the same. And then now we look on maybe more mature students. So maybe you're getting a stipend for your research. I mean, that's just point blank considered you're being paid to do work, right? So that's again, salary, wages. I think that answers the question. Scholarship is always considered income. It's just the question is it taxable or is it not taxable? And you find that out based on those two requirements. Is it from an eligible educational institution as the IRS defines it to be? And is it used on qualified educational expenses as the IRS defines it to be? I'm gonna ask Vanessa to pop some links in the info because I know me telling you that is nothing, but we'll pop the right links so that you know exactly what that means.
That was super helpful. Let's say I'm a student in the United Kingdom and I receive one of these scholarships for research or a grant for research. Obviously, I need to live on that income. I need to feed myself. I need to house myself. And do you think the country that I'm living in will also tax that as income?
The country you're living in may or may not tax it. I don't know, right?
Sorry, that was an ambiguous question.
Yeah, I'm a US tax specialist, right? So I'm not going to pretend I know what your local country will do. If I look at local tax returns, I do see scholarship income listed on it a lot of the times.
So keep an eye out for that. If my income, my scholarship income, is lower than the foreign earned income exclusion limitations.
Girl, who gets paid over $120,000 in scholarship income?
There are some very generous establishments in this world.
Yeah, you're going to Harvard, but I don't think outside the US anyone would charge you that much. But anyways, continue.
Totally fine. So what is the Foreign Earned Income Exclusion Act threshold for the last calendar year?
Yeah, so right now we'll be filing 2023 tax returns, so that's $120,000 US. And one thing I just want to point out is you're thinking, what does scholarship income have to do with the foreign earned income exclusion? Well, again, as I had alluded to, scholarship income usually falls into the bucket of compensation, wages, and then that is considered earned income, right? Because you have to do something for the income. You have to study, right? Technically for your scholarship income. If you have a stipend, you have to do the research to get that type of income. And so that would be considered earned income. And then if you are abroad while you're studying, if you're abroad while, you're doing your Fulbright, if you're abroad while you're doing, your research projects, that would be considered foreign. And so it might be eligible for the foreign earned income exclusion, keeping in mind the foreign earned income exclusion. In order to use it, which is on form 2555, Google it, you do have to pass one of two tests. You either need to be a bona fide resident, so meaning you have been abroad, you live abroad for a full year, calendar year, January to December, and you are a resident in that country, and if there's income tax in that country, you would be paying income tax. Or you have been abroad for 330 full days in a 12-month consecutive period. So basically, if you meet one of those, you are eligible to exclude up to $120,000 of foreign earned income, which could be like scholarship income, right? So that's why a lot of people that do get scholarship income do get, this type of volunteer compensation, anything that's considered wages compensation for your services, do not end up usually paying US taxes because you use the foreign earned income exclusion on it.
Would student loans ever be considered as income?
No. I mean, of course, unless you get it canceled. If you do get your student loan forgiven, it could come up as canceled debt, which can look like income. Usually, if there's like a big program going on, right, as we were once upon a time promised.
Yep, RIP.
That actually had, a whole clause saying that it's not going to be counted as income. But if it's just your financial institution pardoning you as a specific individual, that can come up as canceled debt, which can be income. Normally with student loans, you would just have an interest deduction if you are not married filing separately. Most expats don't need it because most expats don't really pay taxes, so you don't really need the deductions either.
Actually, this is a really great point. I was able to use my interest that I paid on my student loans and deduct that from the potential of needing to pay taxes. Could you use your student loan interest to offset any potential income that you might have to pay?
Yeah, of course. Like I said, it's not so useful for most expats just because they usually only have salary and then they exclude it with the foreign income exclusion. So if you look at your tax return, basically you would report wages, which could be scholarship or whatever, or your part-time job. And then you would exclude that with the foreign income exclusion. And so say you report 20,000 US dollars as wages. You exclude then $20,000 from your income, from your adjusted gross income as foreign income exclusion, and then you have zero taxable income. And so you don't need the student loan interest deduction, but of course you can use it and you can exclude up to $2,500 on a tax return of student loan interest. Obviously you have to pay that, right? But you could exclude up to $2,500. So that can definitely be helpful if people have a lot of US investment income still, and then the foreign income exclusion doesn't help offset, the investment income.
I know this sounds a little scary as you prepare to start your new life abroad as a student, but I studied abroad for my master's degree. It completely changed my life and the trajectory of my entire career. And I was able to make up all of the money that I spent on that degree, the living cost, etc., to really have a meaningful life abroad. Did you study abroad?
I did study abroad. So 1 and 2, I do want to add to that what Vanessa just said is, yes, there can be some upfront financial expenses to studying abroad, but remember, schools abroad are a lot cheaper.
A lot cheaper.
Oh my God. So I did study abroad, but I studied abroad with my US university. And so they sent me to London for, 3 months. That was super expensive because it was through my US university. I did my master's here in Austria, and it was a private university. Taught in English for, information technology. And they were like, I am so sorry that we have to charge you 1,000 euros for the entire year.
What? I am deeply offended for myself.
And I was like, oh my God, coming from a private university in the US, just here's my credit card.
Yep.
And it's again, obviously I don't want to take it light because I know 1,000 euros can be a lot for a lot of people. But when you come from the US system, as you probably know watching this video, while sitting in the US, 1,000 euros is a steal.
1,000 euros is a copay at a doctor's office sometimes.
Yeah, it's true.
Outrageous. I paid for a private university in the UK in English, £16,000 for the
which is still really affordable compared to the US.
100%. I actually kind of giggled to myself. I'm like, this is just a semester of learning in the United States. And then
it really is.
It really is. It's actually less. I paid $40,000 a year at Boston College, and I had almost 100K in scholarships, grants, and I was an RA. So really, it was a walk in the park to study out here. So with that in mind, please don't allow the possibility of filing taxes and really not a lot of possibility of paying them scare you from this incredible opportunity to go abroad. It changed our lives. It's going to change your life, and we can't recommend it enough. If you are enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a like while you're here. It really helps our channel and helps to expand the knowledge so other people can take advantage of it. For more information about personal finance for US expats abroad, head to my Personal Finance for Expats playlist, which has a ton of information for folks like us who are living abroad. I'll see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching. If you liked that video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.